How to ruin hard to find parts. Okay guys, here we are with round 2 on the 606 pan modification attempt. As you just saw, the previous pan that I modified got a little bit too much heat into it and warped the flange pretty significantly. I tried to repair it and it cracked. So ended up finding another pan on one of the Facebook groups, and here we are. So from here I'm going to show you how I'm going to I'll show you how I notched it and how I'm going to add material, make a template, what I do. Again, you know, I'm not an expert, I'm not a fabricator, and I'm not a professional welder. Yes, I can make metal stick. Yes, I can TIG weld aluminum, stainless, regular steel, mild steel. But I am not a professional welder, so I don't know all the tricks and the trade in order to keep from getting fucked. So here we are. This is what I'm working with. So what I have here is the piece of the pan that I cut from the new pan. I measured it, taped it off, drew a line, used a grinder, and cut it out. Now, as you can see on the pan, how I make my templates is I take some green painter's tape and I try to make it as flat as I can on the surface that I'm working, and I'll find something to rub over the hard edges to either make a line, like an imprint on the tape, or even wear through the tape. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I put a decent layer over it, and I'm going to try to find something that I can rub over the hard edges of the pan to create a line for myself to either cut, or again, if I rub the edge hard enough, it'll actually wear through the tape. Kind of like, I don't know, you've seen guys, old timers, make gaskets, or if you're preparing to paint an engine block, a lot of guys will put a layer of tape over the deck and then rub it with like the business end of a hammer to try to make the imprint of the hard edge, and then ultimately like it wears and you can just peel it off like it was cut perfectly. That's kind of the same principle that we're doing here. So let me find some tools that will work and we'll go from there. Okay, so what I have found was took one of these impact sockets. Don't mind the nut that I have welded on there. This is kind of like a tool that I made to do something else. So what I can do now is I can take the side wall of the socket and kind of rub it over the hard edge. And if you can see, let's see if you can get a glimpse of that. You can see, A, there's a mark there, and B, if there was some better lighting, you would be able to see that the wall, or the actual pan itself has kind of pushed through the tape, so that I'll be able to peel just the template off. So let me work on this a while. I'll show you exactly what I mean when I do it. But once I show you the gist of it, I'll turn the camera off, finish it off, and then show you what I'm left with and where we go from there. So again, side of the socket, and just go back and forth, and literally at some point you can actually hear the socket rubbing the actual aluminum because the tape has worn through. And then you just peel the template off. Yep, I can start to hear it now. You can kind of see some of the pan through it. So I'm going to finish working this around all the sides and stuff, and then I'll show you what I'm left with once we're all good to go with the tape template. Okay, so I think I got most of the template rubbed down to where it transferred. So carefully I will grab a corner and slowly peel away, hopefully not totally destroying my template here. So I have a couple layers of tape here, so you might just have to be ginger with it. Yeah, there you go. See what I'm saying? Like, you just rub that hard edge down and it just leaves a nice little line. Pull down, grab this edge, pull down. So look at that. Already, it's almost like we know what we're doing. Just perfectly contours the pan. Cool stuff. So I'm going to continue peeling this off, and I'll show you what I'm left with once it's all done. Alright, give me a couple minutes. Alright guys, would you look at it? Look at that, almost like I know what I'm doing here. Look at all those nice edges. All the way up and over the pan. On top of the pan, you got the edge. Look at that. All the way over. So, effectively, we just created a template. Now, with that being said, this is not going to be something that's just going to snap in place once I get it laid out, cut, and bent, because this time I actually am planning on trying to put this part in a break or a bender and just bend that. I'll throw some kind of a measuring device on there to see what angle it is exactly, but I want to try to keep as much heat off this pan as I can this time around. I've actually purchased a pretty big chunk, 5/16 of an inch piece of aluminum that I'm ultimately going to lay under this pan. I think it's like 16 inches long, so it'll probably just right in the center of where I'm going to be welding. I'll put the piece on it. I'll mark some holes onto it. I'll drill holes. I'll thread the holes, and then I'll actually bolt the pan down to it. I kind of got these neat drill bits that have taps built into them. I kind of want to try those out on this to see how they work. But again, I'll just mark the holes. I'll drill a pilot hole, and then I'll send this drill bit that I have that has threads already built into it and run that out, and I'll do that to as many holes as I can, centering that plate right on the hot zone here, and bolt it down and weld it that way. But getting back to my initial statement, once this piece is laid out on the flat piece, cut out and bent, it's not, I mean, I guess in a perfect world it would be perfect enough to just lay in there and weld, but going back to my previous statement, I am not a fabricator, I am not a metal worker, I am not a welder, and first and foremost, I am not a magician. So this will be a great start for me to lay out on a piece of aluminum. I can lay it out flat, I can cut it, I can mark where the bend is on the tape, and like I said, I'll take it to work and I'll bend it to where I think it's going to be. And also, just thinking in my head, I might actually anneal the aluminum before I bend it, only because when I've worked with aluminum previously, especially when bending aluminum, it does have a memory or a fatigue point of no return, and I think if I heat it and then bend it, this piece I'm talking about, it will try to keep some of that stress down a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm headed at this point. So let me get some more work done here, and I'll kind of show you where I'm at and where we proceed from here. Okay, so what I've done is I've added 2 pieces of tape here just in the middle to keep both halves together. I've added some black Sharpie at the corners and across the span. Ultimately, it's just going to be the edge of this piece of tape, but I just put some reference marks there for myself. That will signify where I need to bend the piece once I transfer it onto this piece of what looks to be close to 1/8 inch aluminum. So yeah, I'm going to carefully peel this off here, transfer it onto this piece of aluminum, and we'll trace it out. Let's start that. Alright guys, here we are. So I took off the template. Got to be ginger with it because it's only painter's tape. And then I took my piece of painter's tape template and laid it on this sheet of aluminum here. I basically pushed it down as best as I could. I trimmed off a little bit of the ragged edges. Not that there was many ragged edges, but you can see here where it's not super crisp. I just kind of trim those with a razor. And then from this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Sharpie and I will trace this whole thing. And I'm using a Sharpie because A, I'll be able to see it, and B, the width of a Sharpie adds a little bit of overall dimension to this so that I won't sell myself short on the template. I can always take a little bit of material away, whether a sander or a cookie wheel or flap wheel or whatever, but I don't obviously want to be short on any part of the template. So again, I'm going to trace this out with the Sharpie and we'll go from there. But this is kind of where we're at, folks. Stay with me. Alright, so there we go. We got our trace mark. I add a little an ear here and an ear here. Excuse me. To reference, again, my bend. So once I pull this template off, I'll have these 2 marks here. I'll take a ruler or a straight edge, draw a line. That line again will denote where I fold it. And then I'll cut this thing out. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to save this, although it's really not that big of a deal. I'm really hoping I don't have to do this again, and to be honest with you, it basically is going to vary from pan to pan because it'll never be cut the same way really for anybody, but I don't know, whatever. So yeah, I'll peel this back. We will draw our line and off to cutting. And there we are. Again, I said I was going to save the template for whatever reason, put it on my freezer, whatever. Here we go. Got my template on my sheet of aluminum. I drew a line, again signifying where my bend's going to be. This is the top, this is the bottom. So at this point it gets loud and messy and a little annoying trying to cut this thing. So I'll put the camera down and we will just try to get this knocked out, and I'll post the finished results for you. Hopefully I have all my fingers when I come back. You know, for just a dumb maintenance worker slash dairy robot tech slash manager slash cook, I impress myself every once in a while. There's our template. There's our fold mark. I'm going to think about how I'm going to bend this here properly without fucking it up, or I might just take it to work. So let's see what I can come up with. Well guys, basically here it is. Where I left off, I had to make a couple changes and some minor adjustments, and just like anything custom, never is perfect, absolutely perfect. So let me just give you a little rundown of what I did. So I'll take this off for science sake. So the first thing you'll notice is that it's two pieces. So I decided instead of bending that plate that I made and fatiguing that center bend, which is very common in this kind of aluminum, I decided to cut and weld basically the cross joint here. I'll do that first, just by laying it on the pan. Or what I should say I'm going to do is, because first of all, this is obviously the second time I'm doing it, and I think I'm going to have a friend of mine who welds for a living do it after I tack it all up and clean it all up for him, just to kind of give myself a fighting chance this time, because I can't keep doing this and I'm behind schedule with this project, so as it is. So again, this is what I ended up doing. I think where we left off, the pan still came out to here. So there's a big hump here that was going to be close to impossible to get that a transition from a flat piece to a contoured piece. So what I ended up doing was taking another 1.25 inches off the pan to get a little bit more of a flat area to work with, so the plane would be straighter. And then I knocked these little nibs off the windage tray area. I'll clean those up a little bit yet still, but I kind of did that just to get those out of the way. And then, like I said, next thing I did was I put tape over this back section again, just like I showed you guys in the first section of the video. I put the green tape over it, traced the outline of it, peeled it off. I put it on another piece of aluminum, and as you can see, the template's still on this bottom piece. And then, because I knew I was going to have to slightly bend this, I was a little proud on this side with the arrow. Well, that's supposed to be an arrow. You can kind of see I left a little bit there, only because once the metal shrinks, I'm going to lose length on that side. So I left it a little proud, knowing that I could take it off if I needed to. So at the end of the day, you could see my stretch, my metal stretch marks that basically did with some hand tools, a little old ass Craftsman adjustable. Basically what a power hammer would do, I guess, if you had one. But anyways, finished product is going to be something like this. So this piece will go in first, and as you can see, that's butted up against this corner, and then it's butted up against this corner, and I have the contours really nice for the bolt holes. I have an a die grinder with a carbide bit that I'll smooth them up even further, and then again on this side, which is the proud side, I'll knock this little overhang down just a smidge, and then clean this edge up just a little bit, and then you could see all the way around. I'm trying to fit it as tight as I can for Mike, so I might even bend that down a little bit, but all the way around. This was the only side here that I wasn't able to get super tight. I might be able to work on that a little bit more, but even this back transition, really tight for the most part. Going over to this side, again, as tight as I can get it. That's a marker line you could see there, but just a tiny little gap there. So it doesn't rock or anything as far as the fitment of this piece goes, which I'm really happy about. Hopefully it'll make Mike's life easier. Excuse me. And then to get the contour of this piece, what I did was slid this back, slid the original piece down, push this up against it. And I'm just a dummy, folks. So I mean, if I can do this, anybody can do this. Slid that up. Oh, I'm sorry. Put that down all the way. Slid this piece up against it. Traced the radius of my bent piece. Took it out. Cut it in my bandsaw, which is great, by the way. And then came up with this, which is the exact radius as to what I need. So at the end of the day, I can slide this all the way up to the joint there. And then I can take this piece. Sorry, I'm moving you all over the place, folks. Take this piece, lay it in there. Again, I think I'm going to... I left a little bit of an overhang. I don't know if that'll help welding or not. It did when I welded my first one, so maybe it will work for Mike. This is just a little tape to secure it. And then that's it. A couple more of these and I'll be able to crank them out and sell them. These pans are crazy to get. So much happier with this one. Now the final piece will be to reinforce the base with that plate, which I'm going to do next. And then I'm going to tack this piece. Maybe I won't even do that. I don't know. I'll find out what Mike wants me to do. But realistically, he can see what has to happen here. I was going to put a couple fill tacks here, maybe here, just to kind of keep these two together. Then I was going to have them send it. But I'll probably hit this a whole bunch with some acetone and some Scotch-Brite and try to get it as clean as I can for them, since the aluminum is so freaking porous. And it's a 25-year-old oil pan that's been soaked in diesel and oil for its lifetime. So let me go grab that plate and we'll see how we're going to attach that to the pan. That'll be the next thing, guys. So stay with us. Okay, so I'm moving right along. I got my 5/16 inch piece of aluminum, pretty heavy duty stuff. My goal is to mark all these holes. Side note, I couldn't find a piece at the steel yard that was long enough to hold the whole pan. This piece is pretty decent. I can't imagine it not being enough. But anyways, so my goal is to mark each one of these holes that are on the piece of aluminum, both sides, drill and tap a hole through each one of these things. You'll notice on the bottom side of this pan there's like a little crank scraper in the windage tray. I ended up slotting that on the bandsaw and drilling a hole crudely to accommodate this to lay it flush, which it does now. So I'm giving myself every opportunity to make this work, so hopefully in the long run it works. But right now I'm going to get to marking these holes and then drilling them out. So let's try this out, see how it goes. Oh, the sounds of Makunji. Well, here we go. I used the drill press today for the first time since I tried to delete my one finger a year ago. And I still have all my fingers. I have the basal plotting marked out. My wife got me these a couple years ago for Christmas. I have not used them yet, but we're going to use them today. We're going to see how many we can snap. So I went for the 1/4-20 flavor, just because I have tons of those bolts. As you can see, it's got a little holder onto it, and it's a it's got the twist drill tap combo. I've done the human thing and drilled a pilot hole all the way. So we're gonna try to plop holes in these on my stack of expensive winter tires and not drill a hole through my tires. But you guys can laugh at me when I do that because it's going to happen. Stand by. Well, let's first start by saying that these are absolutely incredible. That being said, you can see the M6 1.0 is missing. That's because it's in the drill. That's because the quarter 20 snapped because I was getting a little too cocky. So, M6 starts there. RIP quarter 20. These things are incredible. Well, lucky for me, it was a through hole and it just spun right out. So, check these out. These holes are all drilled. I pre-drilled them with a 5/32 bit and then went through and ran these little twist drill tap combos through. So cool. I've never used them before and I think they're great. Obviously they'll have limits. Definitely need to be careful going in straight and coming out straight, and there is a learning curve. I found that you can't go all the way through. Once the threads are pretty deep, you stop and reverse the drill. Once the bit's through, you're kind of screwed. But anyways, that's pretty neat. Well, here we are, guys. You can see I got all my drilled and tapped holes down through the base plate, both sides. Got my notch in there. I'll bolt this thing down and work on cleaning it up so we can get it welded. I think I'm going to call it a day. It's chilly here. I got some responsibles to do the rest of the night, and I like to get them done before it gets dark. So with that being said, stay tuned for part 2 of the oil pan for the OM606 modification. Pretty happy so far. Second time around. Hopefully doing it better this time. Alright guys, stay tuned for part 2. Like, comment, subscribe. Piss your pants.